and gentlemen, another edition of the Scouser and the Scot.
Today we have a good friend of ours from Blood Feast, the one, the only, Tom Lorenzo, bass player extraordinaire. How are you doing, Tom? Are you keeping well?
Good, gentlemen. Thanks for having me. And yeah, there's only one, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, we've got you on from New York, so obviously we appreciate your time and stuff like that. So we're going to go straight in with the first question for you, mate. So what's your involvement in the music industry, and how did you start off playing bass?
I started playing when I wanted to play since I was young. Since I wanted to play drums first. You know, Kiss Alive was my first album at like, 11, 12 years old. And I always wanted to be a drummer. But my mother told me, you ain't getting drums in this house. It took me a little while to get her to get me being able to play the instruments. Like, you know, I started messing around in guitar when I was about 13, but I always wanted to play bass. I always kind of gravitated towards the bass. You get the fingers. Look at those fingers.
Bass hands.
Anyway, but I remember when I saw The Kids Are All Right, the Who movie, the kind of documentary. And that's when I started. It was like 13. That movie came out when I was like 13 or 14. So, and I remember seeing them, you know, the Ed whistle. And I said, well, that's how you're supposed to play, with the fingers. And that's when I decided, Gene Simmons had something to do with it too, with the blood, and you know, the bass looked cool and all that. So I kind of gravitated towards being a bass player. I was like, guitar looks too hard. I'm not going to get a drum set. So I settled on the bass, and I figured that was the natural instrument for me, because I'm not really a great guitar player either. You know, I could play a couple of, you know, power chords and stuff, but the bass seemed to be organically the instrument that I was supposed to play. I started playing when I was around 15. I finally got my mother to get me a bass, and I started taking lessons. So that was about May of like 1981. So I was like 15 going on 16. Like I said, I had messed around on the guitar before, so the string landscape wasn't so alien to me. You know, I knew that's where I was supposed to be. So I started playing, and then I was playing with my friend. I met a drummer when I at the place where I used to do guitar lessons at, you know, bass lessons. And that's just moved on from there. I just always tried to play with anybody I could play with. Thing was, I always wanted to stay on the heavier side, because, you know, then like when I was like 15, 16, I just discovered, you know, of course, the God, Steve Harris, you know. And I remember buying the first Iron Maiden album right after I had started playing the bass, and I was a huge UFO fan too. So Pete Way was another, you know.
Oh yeah.
But I remember like Strangers in the Night, when I bought that album, I was like, whoa. And then when I got the first Iron Maiden album, I was like, you're allowed to do that on the bass? So that was a big thing for me. So I kind of always moved towards the heavier type music. You know, I mean, not that I didn't love all the other kind of stuff. And, you know, I loved the Ramones when I was a kid, and the Sex Pistols, because, you know, that was the time, late 70s, early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And, but that's how I got into it, basically. Just kind of fell in love with music and found out I could actually play the bass somewhat. So I just moved forward from there and just tried to find people to play. But it was hard to find. I live in Staten Island, New York, which is an island, obviously. And everybody was more of a pretty boy here. You know, it was hard to find people at that time that were into the heavier stuff, because when I got into Motorhead when I was like 16, 17, people were like, who the hell is Motorhead? Like, they didn't know who Motorhead was, you know. And then I moved, you know, like Venom, and then, you know, when the thrash thing started up in the United States, you know, Metallica. I saw Metallica before the first album came out. You know, Cliff Burton now, that guy was doing stuff on the bass that were like, what the hell is that guy doing? So I always moved heavier. I just moved more towards the heavier stuff, you know. So, but that's how I got into it. I just love it. I fell in love with it, and that was the thing. Just felt natural for me.
Well, and that's good. But I think as well, for me, a lot of the thing about a good bassist is timing as well. So the timing between, you wanted to be a drummer, so I think it might be something to do with that. It's that rhythmic timing thing as well, you know. Yeah. Can you talk us through your gear, like your guitars that you prefer to use, your rig, and if there's a difference between your live rig and your recording rig? Can you talk us through that, please?
Okay. When bass plays, excuse me. Sorry. When Blood Feast records, I usually go straight into the board now. I think I only did it once, but my rig in the studio at our rehearsal and my guitar player, he runs a recording thing too.
Mm-hmm.
La Chateau Bow Wow Studios in Watchung, New Jersey. Sorry, I had to throw the plug in. But CJ Sosha, our guitar player, he does recording anyway. He's an engineer. He's a recording engineer. We have a place out there in Watchung, New Jersey. Our band's based in New Jersey. Like I said, I'm the only New Yorker guy. But in the studio, I have Jesus Christ, this thing is so old. It's only got 2 channels and it's got 3 knobs. Volume, treble, bass, an acoustic 150B. That thing is this thing is huge. You could throw it down a flight of stairs and nothing's going to happen to it. And it's a monster. I can't even take because it has those. It's got to be from the 80s. I'm not sure. I bought it off a friend of mine for about $100 a couple of years ago. But I also had a Traynor 150 50. I got it over here. Wait. I'll even show you. Here's my rig. Right, KMD, British made. I can't even tell you how long I've had that, since the 90s. A friend of mine gave me that rig. And the transporter Harkey. This is the rig I was using. I blew it last year at a gig because I went through an Ampeg stack and the ohms were off. So I love this thing. Look, that thing's from like the 1970s. This was a head that somebody gave me that was already blown. I was going to get it repaired. I just sitting here around. But this is my main rig that I've had. You know, like Lemmy. Lemmy played the same rig for like 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I blew the Traynor and I love that thing, and I got that for free. I was using that. But when I rehearse, I get the acoustic, like I said, the 150B, and a Marshall cabinet, 412 Marshall cabinet. That's in the studio. Mm-hmm. When we play live, and when I record, I go straight into the board. Also, my pedal board is a Sans Amp DI box. You know, it's kind of like a little preamp, sort of.
Yeah.
You know, it's got all the little knobs you can use to, and you know, I get like an overdrive kind of distorted sound, you know. And you know, I lean more towards like a half Steve Harris, half Lemmy kind of sound. You know, hear a little bit of clack. I don't use a pick. I'm always a finger guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I use in the studio. And then usually, because we don't tour like we wish we could, you know, we just, come on, look at us, guys in our 50s. My singer just turned 50 yesterday, actually, or November 1st. So we're not going to jump in a van and be sleeping on the tire in the back of the van on a tour kind of thing. So we get offers to go to like overseas. We've been to Japan, we've been to Germany. We want to play the UK so bad. We've been through Heathrow on the way out to Germany, but we haven't played the UK yet. Been to South America once. But, you know, Blood Feast still has the reputation from the 80s. So we have a fan base, which is great. And I mean, we got fans all over the world, basically. But they're like, oh, come to this country. But when we travel, we don't bring anything with us except our pedals and our guitars. That's it, you know. So, but when we tour, when we go out and play local gigs, I don't even use my rig because half the time they already have a backline set up for us, and I'll just use my head if I need to. Mm-hmm. So basically, I get my sound from my pedal board, which is simple because all it is the Sans Amp. I have a Boss tuner and I have a Line 6. I forget the product name, but it's a wireless system. The transmitter looks like a little cigarette lighter. You just stick it into the guitar. It's great. Mm. The USB plug sucks though because it comes out. It's like we played in Japan and I fell on the stage, didn't miss a note because I listened to we had a recording from the board. But towards the end of the set, the bass rig cuts out, but I know it's that wire that's loose that goes into the receiver of the wireless system. And it's funny, in Japan, they got like 3 or 4 guys for each station, for each amp, and the drum set. Mm. So my rig cuts out, I turn around and I look, and I see all the guys. There's like 3 guys that are on the, you know, the stage guys. They all look at me and they go, and I go, no, it's good. And and I leaned down and I just fixed the wire. And it was cool, you know. But it's, my setup is not very, you know, overcomplicated. I don't have any rack systems or anything like that, you know. And for years, I used to just plug straight into my amp, and it was more about just me, the way I played, you know. I would just mess with the head the way I like to get it. I like to get like an overdriven sound, obviously, because the way we play. And so basically, it's just kind of like I just go with it, like, you know, I just play with the knobs and like, and so I deal with a whole bunch of different type of rigs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool in a way. So I kind of, when I approach an amplifier, I go, oh yeah, okay, let me play with this thing for a few minutes, and I just kind of twiddle the knobs. But I always manage to get somewhat the same sound when I'm playing shows. And like I said, when we fly overseas, we really can't bring any heads with us or anything like that. You know, those guys are crazy. The people, I gotta have my sound, and they're like, you know, bring their Marshall head on the plane with them. I'm like, it's not working for me. So try to keep it stripped down a little bit. So
what guitars do you? What's your preferred guitars?
My main guitars now. I have a Destroyer, Ibanez Destroyer, and I think I bought it brand new about 3 years ago. But I think it's like a reissue of an '82 Destroyer bass. Now, I had a Destroyer when I was a kid. I got it stolen at a show in 2005. That's another story. We're not going to go into that one right now. But my first real guitar was an Ibanez Destroyer, a red one, the X series, you know, like Mantis from Venom. I mean, Kronos from Venom, that kind of thing. But and I also have an Iceman. Ibanez Iceman bass that Adam, my guitar player, bought for me after my original Destroyer got rocked at a show in New Jersey. It's always in New Jersey, sons of bitches. Anyway, this is, I bought this back in the '90s. I gotta have a P bass. This is a '74 as far as I know. So this is what I play at home. My other two basses are at rehearsal because my rehearsal space is like 30 miles from where I live, you know. But this is my home gig. I try not to take this out since it's a '74. You know, nice. It's a good bass. It got a little chips, but then I think they're worth more money when you got them beat up like that, right? So, and I got a great Thunderbird, but it's an Epiphone. Sounds great. It's got the battery in it, so I wouldn't trust that live. You know, but I keep it at home. I bought a bass off of Alan Johnson from Exciter a couple of months ago, about a year ago. He was selling it. I said, I'll buy it because we became friends. We played with them in Japan, and I became friends because the original Exciter, man, we played with them. I was like, that was cool. They're one of like the bands that like influenced me. What else do I got? I got a Mexican-made jazz bass. I think it's like a '95, and I got a Mexican-made Precision signed by Geezer Butler. That's another story, but I don't play that. I just leave it alone because it's got Geezer's photograph on there. So, what else do I got? I got about 8 guitars, give or take. Oh, I got a Gibson Explorer bass. I like that shape. I like the exotic shapes.
Yeah, it's lovely.
That thing is like a coffee table with strings. It's so huge. It's hard to kind of play. It's got kind of a muddy sound. The action's kind of rough to play. So, but my main guitars are the Ibanez's. Sorry Fender, sorry Gibson. But yeah, that's what I play. Those are my 2 main guitars.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
and I'd show you them, but then they're at the studio. So
yeah, no worries.
That's cool. So the first thing we need is line 6 to sort out the USB because I've got the same issue on my wireless pack. So I know how you do.
I love it.
Sucks, man. But hey, we have to live with it on stage. So quick one.
Exactly.
How's the new material coming, or has it all been put on hold because of COVID?
No, we're working on it. Well, at the beginning of the pandemic thing, well, it was in March, right? Everything shut down, obviously, so we didn't rehearse for about 3 months. We were already in process of writing the music. Now, Adam Tranquilli, who's the original guitar player of Blood Beast, he's the boss. He's the captain. He does most of the writing, lyrics and music. CJ, on this new record, he contributed 2 songs, lyrics and music. I think one of the songs was written by a friend of his. I'm not sure, but so CJ's got 2. I took one song. I said, "Give me that song. It's mine," and I put lyrics down for it. And actually, it's funny because I'm not much of a songwriter, but once in a while I come up with some lyrics. And this thing happened to do with a girl, which is, you know, how it all works, I guess. But it was a girl from South America, a younger girl actually, a big metalhead. And it's funny, we became friends on Facebook, and we had like a little misunderstanding, a little argument. And she said to me, "You're like a storm in a glass of water." And I go, and after we settled it, that we weren't mad at each other, I go, "That is brilliant." I said, "That's such a great phrase." And I took that one line and turned it into a song. So I remember saying to Adam, because it's one of the shorter, faster songs we have. And a lot of them aren't titled. We have no title for the album right now. But we're already in the third process of the recording. And this is going to be the final album. Because we did like a demo thing. And then we did a second recording because the drummer always wants to change something. And then he wanted to change more. So we have the time, obviously, because we're not running around trying to get this album out anytime soon, because I don't see us releasing it during this pandemic thing, you know? So I got one song, full lyrics of mine, which I'm kind of proud of. And like I said, it was a good push from what I got it from. So we got that going on. So we're still working on titles and lyrics, but the music set, Adam is now finishing up the main rhythm guitar tracks for the record. So it's going to be the album. Drums are done. Rhythm guitars are almost done. I go and do the bass tracks. I only did 4 songs in the second set, you know, the second recording, because we got the time and we could record all we want because my guitar player is, you know, he's recording the album. So it's going nice and strong, but we're also taking our time and we're just, like I said, we don't have a lot of set things. And, oh, let's play it, because when we rehearse the songs, I go, oh, yeah, let's play that song that goes like this, you know, and they'll hum it or something, or, you know, or we have a title, and, you know, but we don't have full lyrics. So we'll have full lyrics, we don't have a title. So we're still in the process of but it's going to be a new album, obviously. And I think it's good because it's, you know, we did the full album in 2017. That was the first album in 30 years that Blood Feast had put out.
Wow.
And then we did the re-recorded songs of the first 2. We took 4 songs off the first 2 albums and re-recorded them. That was the Chopped, Sliced, and Diced. So Future State of Wicked came out, brand new material. And then we did the Chopped, Sliced, and Diced, which was 4 old songs re-recorded by us. And then on the CD, there's a live version of one of the songs from the Future State of Wicked album, live in Japan. And it has a brand new song called Concubine. So it was 5 songs total of recorded stuff, and then the one live song on the CD. And then we put out the vinyl and the cassettes and all that stuff with the Hell's Headbangers label. And you know, the metalheads, they want to be able to hold it and smell it and have us sign it and all that stuff. So that's what we've got out now from this lineup. So we're still in the process of finishing up the music, but we've got the time, and plus we could take guys like you and, you know, bring you along so we can talk about it, you know, because we're still in the process of doing the, you know, recording. Yeah. So. It's coming out great. It really is. It's definitely different from what we did before, and it's different from the original Blood Feast stuff. So it's good. It's an evolution of what we're doing. Saying, you know, we all throw our own little things in there, but Adam is the lion's share of the writing, and CJ, you know, he brings some full songs too.
So when you say about an evolution in sound, what is it that's created that evolution? Is it you listening to other bands and taking things out of it? You know, how has it evolved, Tom?
I just think it's Adam, because Adam is not a guy that hears a band and goes, oh, well, I guess we should write stuff that sounds like that. Adam just writes from himself. He just, you know, and then of course he'll show me the songs, he'll show us the songs, but it's just an evolution of what he does as a songwriter. And that's what I think is great about us. Even if it's like, we're not really following any trends, or we're not really kind of chasing somebody else on what they're doing. We're just being Blood Feast. I mean, we're not breaking any new ground, we're a thrash band. We were an American thrash band, East Coast American thrash band. So, and Adam just writes how he writes. He doesn't really. I mean, we obviously have our influences, but our influences came from when we started playing as kids: Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Slayer, Venom, just bands that influenced Metallica, early Metallica, obviously, because they were the first. Let's just give them that, Come on, Kill 'Em All. That's a landmark record. But basically, just from ourselves, how we sound. It's like, I'll even go to him. I'll go, "Wow, Adam, I love that part. Sounds like Voivod." He goes, "Does it?" I go, "Yeah, man, there's something what you're doing there. It sounds great." I think I pick apart the stuff more than, say, Adam does. Adam just writes the stuff and goes, "Here's the songs." And I'll go, "Wow, bro, I love this part because it sounds like this or it sounds like that." But that's me, because me being like a fanboy, sort of, But yeah, it's not that we just do what we do, and apparently people like it because we do okay. People, so we're happy in that respect. So I know a lot of bands will kind of do that. Wow, this band's really doing something. So let's kind of, lean towards that. And we're just kind of like, not that we're in our own little bubble. We just do what we do, and me, I'm the bass player. So what do I get to say? They go, "Play this." I go, "Okay," I play it. That's it. So,
well, it worked for Motorhead, Tom. So I don't see why it shouldn't work for you guys as well. They knew who they were, and they just did it.
Exactly. It's like, I guess, we'd kill your lawn too, I guess. That's what Lemmy was saying. If we moved in next year, your lawn would die, right? So, but, yeah, and, we got, we're good friends with all the local bands in New York and New Jersey, Attacker, if you know who those guys are, and Toxic, and our buddies from the North, we got the guys in Razor we're good friends with, and out in California, Heretic. These are all bands that we're all kind of in the same level. Like we're not Metallica, we're not Slayer, but we're not, we got our level. At War, if you know who they are, from Virginia Beach. So these are all bands, guys in the same age group. They've been at it just as long as, Blood Feast has been at it. I've been in Blood Feast for 10 years now. So I've been in the band longer than the original guys. And like I said, Adam was the one, restarted Blood Feast in 2007. We had the original drummer in. We had to get rid of him. It's just, the thing is, we're not getting any younger here, obviously. And the thing is, we start getting into these things where we're playing, we're getting gigs, and it's not even about making the money. It's about just doing it and just getting out there and playing. But once you get like, I'm not going to name any names, but the thing is, once you get somebody who's giving you problems or holding us back or not doing a gig because their quota is up, and we're like, dude, we're just doing this. We can't wait for anybody to decide when they want to play. So, we've shed some skin and we've grown some skin back. So it's just the natural process. If somebody's going to be, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, I said, we got to do it, bro. We got to move forward. So it's not like throwing people out. It's just leaving them where they were.
Yeah.
So
I'm just reading Rob Halford's autobiography just now, and that's what he's talking about. And I think it was mainly drummers they seem to have problems with in the early days.
Yeah.
And and he's talking through the process of how it can be quite upsetting, but at the end of the day, you've got to do what you think's right for the band at that time. And I mean, I manage a lot of bands, so I know the process. And the amount of times I've had to say to my bands, look, that guy is holding you back. You need to do something. We need to do something about him. And a lot of musicians don't like it, but it's a natural. You have to do it.
And like I said, I mean, there's zero ego in this band. We're all brothers. We all love each other, and we have a great time with it. And if it was about making money, we would have quit 30 years ago, obviously. But 30, 35, we would have stopped doing it because I'm not making enough money here for this. The thing is that, like you said, it's not easy, but at the same time, when something becomes a weak link, And like I said, unfortunately, we're not making the money for a living. We're not making the money in this for a living. Hey, we do pretty good with our merch. You know, we sell some merch when we get out there and play. But yeah, exactly. It's just like we want to move forward. We got a chance at our age. We're lucky to be doing it the way we're doing it. You know, I don't have to. I don't have to like resort to like playing in a cover band so I can play music. You know, and that's the way it is here in New York, in Staten Island. Everybody, guys of my age, they're all in cover bands, which is great. You know, it's fun and it's good to go see my friends play locally. But we get an offer to go down to South America and do a couple of dates down there. We get an offer to go to Germany. Get an offer to go to Japan. We're doing it. We're gonna go. Hey, I love that we travel 30 hours total to go to Japan to play 2 hours worth of music. You can tell we love to do it. It's something we love to do. I mean, if we could make it a living out of it, that'd be awesome, you know. But
so you've just been talking about obviously going over to Japan, where you played festivals over in Japan. You played Germany, and you played like Rio, like down South America way.
Yeah, it was Lima for one festival, for one show. Yeah, but still, it was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool, man. Is there much, do you see there being much difference from playing a festival, outdoor festival, to playing an indoor, small arena, small event, like a small club or something?
Well, here in New York, we're kind of in a shortage of like, you know, smaller clubs. But the few clubs we have here are decent clubs. They get decent things. It's more intimate and it's a lot more fun. Here's one thing. Like, I live in Staten Island. Staten Island doesn't have a huge metal scene, obviously. It's more of a residential borough. You know, it's part of New York City, but there's not many riots going on out here. But you know, Brooklyn and Queens would have more clubs. Manhattan, forget about it. I don't know what the fuck happened to Manhattan. There's nothing going. Oh, sorry.
It's
anyway,
fine. Don't worry.
Anyway, there's like one cool little club in Manhattan that we played with what was left of Carnivore. Remember the band Carnivore?
Yeah.
So we did that show, and you know, it was Manhattan, but Manhattan's turned into this weird thing. Anyway, you got St. Vitus Bar in Brooklyn. You got Blackthorn in Queens. The thing is, it's nice and it's intimate, and mostly you'll see your friends and whatever local metal people you know will be there. Especially if we get to play with bigger bands, like we played with Razor, we played with Demolition Hammer, if you remember those guys. So the difference is, you feel more like a rock star when you're playing these festivals, obviously, because there's more people there. But we enjoy the intimate kind of small club thing. But everybody's going crazy and sweating and moshing and bouncing off the walls. It's great, you know. But there's a little place on Staten Island, and it's the only place that you'll have like original bands play. The younger original bands will play. So I decided I want to do my hometown gig because it's only 8 minutes from my house, and it's one of my favorite shows because it was a local show for me. You know, it was one of my all my friends, and I didn't know, it was the day before New Year's Eve, and a friend of mine in a local band called Enrage, they're like a hardcore kind of crossover metal band, good friends of mine, I'm a huge fan of them for 30 years, they've been around, a little younger than me though, and the singer calls me and goes, dude, come on, because they're Bloodfeast fans from back, you know, way back in the day. He calls me back and goes, dude, come on, what are we doing? He says, December 11th to December 30th. They go, December 30th, let's do it. This is back in 2017. And like I said, it's a small place. You got 100 people in there. It's packed. Doesn't even have a proper stage. Stage about this high, literally. It's an old man bar, you know. They play darts there and stuff. Yeah, but now he's kind of turned into a little venue, and it's good that we have something like that on Staten Island because there wasn't. It was all sports bars, and you get cover bands to play this. You know. Anyway, I go down early because I lived. You know, I was setting up the merch. My friend from the other band, Enraged, he's working behind the bar because he books shows as well. And I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and I just see people coming in. And I go, all right. You know, by the time we got on the stage, the place was packed, moshing. You know, like I said, it was a small little place. Like, if I fell off the stage, I could end up in the men's room. That's how small it was. Anyway, I got to play my hometown gig, and, you know, some of my friends showed up. Not many, because they're all old like me, and like, I can't go, whatever. I got this, stay home. Because the people who were there were fans. So I love those small, intimate gigs as well, because it just, you know, it's people are fans of the band, and they love when they get to be that close to you. You know, I love it. It feels so good to me that people look at us like that. You know, but there's no ego involved. I'm like, oh, we're big rock stars now. We can't play a small place. We'll play a bar mitzvah, bro, if you want us to. You know, you know. But I equally love the small shows as I do the big shows. Of course, the big shows you feel more like a rock star. There's people there, and you know. But if people are there and they're getting into it, if there's 30 people or 3,000 people, I'm happy. So it's and yeah, you know, we've done some kind of, you know, crappy gigs, but we sold $800 in merch. We went to Columbus, Ohio one time, drove all the way out there. That's about, you know, an 8-hour drive for us. And there was maybe 70 people showed up. No air conditioning. In middle of August, I mean, it was 110 degrees in the club. We were dying, but we did $800 in merch. So it was like, well, at least, you know, one thing came off to the other. So it was cool, you know. And the band we played with was gracious. They let us use their whole rigs. I didn't even have to pull my head out or anything. So it was cool. So for me, if I'm looking at an empty floor, I'm not happy. But if people are there and they're into it, then it doesn't make a big difference to me. You know, cool. But of course the festivals are great because, you know, you're seeing other bands, your friends, because we're friends with all these guys we play with usually, you know. So we're all old guys who all get together and play. So
it's all good, mate. I mean, you've mentioned it a few times now about merchandise, and I mean, everybody knows nowadays. Now, bear in mind that we've got a lot of young new bands watching this, and I want them to understand, and you're the very man to talk about it, about how important the merchandise is. Now, one of the things that I've noticed that you do is the retro tapes, etc. So how do you know how you go about picking the merchandise, and is there anything that you do that's different? You know, can you talk us through the process of making in mind what it is you bring in and what you sell?
Well, first of all, my real job, I work in the merchandise industry. I work for Metallica. I do Paul McCartney's merchandise. I work for some big merchandise companies. I've been on the road regionally, so I know the industry to begin with on a professional level.
Oh, cool.
But for us, basically, we print our own shirts. We have a small place in New Jersey that does our thing. Sometimes the design is a little less colors, you know, well, because, you know, we just don't want to spend that much on it. But our label will sometimes print up full color shirts for whatever piece of product we have out. Like I said, we've got some for the one Chopped and Sliced and Diced. They did a full color shirt for us with a back design, and we got to spend a little money on those, so we don't really make money back, and we have to charge a little more because we have to spend a little more for those shirts. But the ones we do on our own, we keep the designs kind of simple with less colors, just because, you know, we're not spending that much money. So say we pay the stuff we do on our own, we'll probably spend around $7 or $8, and we'll sell them for $15, which I think is fair because we're making our money back. And the thing is, our money for the merch, and we get the CDs made, and we, you know, well, the thing was, what the label is, we record the album, we send them the recording mixed, then they master it, and then they make the product. So say they send us back 500 CDs. I don't know about how much we do on the vinyl. Maybe they might send us 80 or 100 vinyl. Some of it's shaped vinyl, some of it's colored vinyl, and we'll sell those for $10 a piece. CDs, obviously, $10 a piece. And then we'll have cassettes made. Not too many people buy the cassettes, but we like to have the cassettes because you get some of those hardcore collector type people that love that we have cassettes, you know?
We love that. We love that. Both Ian and I noticed that. We were like, that is cool. Mixtapes. So, we need to bring back mixtapes.
Yeah, so our expenditure on the merchandise is not that bad. And thing is, we make enough money, but the thing is, we keep the money in the band. Like, nobody's going, where's my money, you know, for the merch? We're just like, we keep the money in the band. If we need to pay for artwork for the album, for the new album, the money comes out of that. We need hotel rooms for one night, the money comes out of that. And then CJ, who does a lot of that, CJ's like more like he's the nerd guy. He's the brain. You know, he knows. I ask him, hey, CJ, when did we play this gig? He'll go, oh, blah, 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 blah. He'll tell you the date. I go, all right, dude, you're scaring me because he remembers shit like that. But he works the vinyl basically. We have a friend who comes out with he'll sell for us or whatever, or we'll take turns at the table. And all that money we get for the merchandise, we keep it in the bands. And then once in a while, CJ goes, all right, well, we made as much shirts as we need. And he'll make an envelope and he'll give us $250 a piece, see, every few months. We'll just say, hey, here's some extra money for you guys. But like I said, we don't do it to like make the money for ourselves. We're just going to keep it in the band. So, yeah, but yeah, it's pretty democratic. I know it sounds pretty crazy for a band, but yeah, we're pretty democratic with that. Everything's kind of even and everything's kind of split up evenly. And like I said, the money's used to keep the band afloat.
Yeah,
so, you know,
makes complete sense. So obviously we were talking about your role in the band is the bass player. So if anyone was interested in becoming a bass player, what advice or what gear would you recommend they start with, or where would you start?
Well, first of all, you're not going to go out and buy yourself a $2,000 precision bass. You know, you buy something. Well, you know, hopefully the kid starts when he's a little young. He or she, I should say, starts a little younger. I think you should get a decent guitar, but nothing too expensive, because, you know, it's like, what if you end up, you don't want to play or whatever, then you spent that much money on the guitar. But, so first of all, you start, I figure if there's a place near you, a music store that gives lessons, go get a couple of lessons done, you know, learn your notes, learn your, you know, learn your technique, I guess. Go somebody who knows how to play, show you how to do it. You know, if you get better at it and you enjoy it more, then you buy a better bass. But yeah, I think you should just try to take a couple of lessons and to see if you know, if you. I was surprised when I was 15. I go, wow, I actually understand some of this stuff. So I guess I'm meant to do this. You know, I guess it goes with, if you feel like it's something that you want to do and it's going to come to you naturally somewhat, you know. I also went to a music school back in like the late 80s. I was already 22 when I went there. I'm going, the first 3 months I was kind of like, not that I was, you know, the master of it all. I was just kind of like, I know my C major scale, you know. And so the first 3 months was kind of like, you were going over what I had already known, I already had learned. But then once you got further down into the Musicians Institute in Hollywood, that's where I went. It was 88 to 90 I was out there. So I was 22 when I went out there back in the late 80s. So you can imagine it was pretty cool for me to be out there then. But yeah, just take lessons, see if you can actually excel at it and get better at it. Like, I'm not the greatest player, but I've gotten pretty good. I got better as a player when I met Adam, because I was in another band with him before Blood Feast was formed, you know, reformed, I should say. And I became a better player. So there's also, you want to get a drummer or a guitar player that, you know, you vibe with, that you know, especially a drummer, obviously, because, you know, it's the rhythm section. But yeah, you just see if you can do it. Just see if it's something for you. These days, I don't see a lot of kids playing instruments, though, unfortunately. I mean, at least here. But and of course, I mean, are a lot of kids, younger kids, into the metal thing. I couldn't tell you like a bass player in a current band I could like look at and go, yeah, try to do what that guy does, because I don't know any of these newer bands that that I would be into. I hate to sound like that. I don't want to sound I'm like, oh, the hell with all these new bands, but I don't know, and I'm in the industry too, so I see some of these bands come up. I go, what are they doing? You know, I don't get it. You know, I don't get what they're doing in some of these newer bands. You know, so I'd say go back to the roots. Early '80s metal guys for me: Steve Harris, Pete Way from UFO, Lemmy from Motorhead, Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath. He is the metal guy. I mean, he is the original metal bass player as far as I'm concerned. Cliff Burton from Metallica, if you lean more towards lead style playing, you know. Lemmy, of course, just for his sound and him being the leader of the band. Who else?
John Entwistle.
Some of the death metal guys. Yeah, say that again. I'm sorry.
John Entwistle. At the Who.
Oh yes, John Entwistle. I'm sorry, I forgot him. He was one of the kind of, like I said, I went to see the Who movie when I was young, and I said, he was like, I said, that's the way you're supposed to play. That's why I was never a pick player, because when I saw Entwistle playing the way he did, and he used the pick too, but and Gene Simmons to a certain amount from Kiss. Come on, I was a Kiss. When I first started playing, when I first started listening to music, I was a Kiss fan. So yeah, those are my influences. That's where I came from, and I try to take all that stuff and kind of mash it together, and that's me, hopefully, somewhat, these guys, they're giants,
Yeah. How often do you actually, now, these days, how often do you practice yourself with the bass, and how often does the band practice together?
Yeah, we practice at least twice a week. We usually do Thursdays and Saturdays. Unfortunately, our singer lives in Philadelphia, so he lives about 2 hours away from where we rehearse in New Jersey. I live 45 minutes from the rehearsal space. We do twice a week, usually Thursdays and Saturdays. If we have a gig, the singer will come up about 2 or 3 rehearsals before the gig, just so we're all tight. And then usually by that we get nice and tight. Me, I gotta admit, I don't practice at home as much as I should. When I'm learning new music, and then CJ will record the stuff and send me an email, and I'll sit at home and I'll go over the new songs. I'm sad to say, I'm ashamed to say, I don't sit at home and play as much as I should. But lately I have been, because I've been going over the new music. But yeah, I'm not a total geek. I know what I need to do. But yeah, it's kind of like when I tell people I'm going to quit smoking. I go, quit smoking, sorry, But and just some, not all, some nights I'll be like, all right, I don't know, I'm upset or pissed off about something. I need to kind of, burn off some steam or something. So I'll sit down and I'll play, or I'll have an idea in my head for something. I'll sit down and I'll play. But especially when I was working, I'm not working right now, unfortunately, but when I was working, I get home, I worked in New Jersey as well. So on a regular practice schedule, I really didn't have. So, but I keep up. I know what I'm doing. So
obviously we've talked about, you understand the reason behind these videos that we're actually making, to encourage people to get involved in the music industry and understand it and stuff like that. And obviously we're talking about basses tonight. So how would you recommend the guys, anyone who's interested, how do they find their tone? What is it like? So if obviously you just go plug and play, what your sound is. How do you recommend that they find their sound?
I would guess, for me, this kind of thing, for me, it's more like, if you know your equipment, and like I said, I'm more of a meat and potatoes kind of guy. So I had a Gallion Kruger 400 RB. It actually got stolen when I got my other guitar stolen. And that's a real good, just like I said, meat and potatoes kind of rig. It's not too complicated. It doesn't have the equalizers on it and stuff. And I think you just sit down with your full rig and get that thing. And I use that, like I said, I use the Sans amp. That's kind of like my little mini preamp. So I'll play with that and get my sound. But I think it's more about this experimentation, or maybe you can ask somebody about how they play. Or when I'm meeting somebody that influences me as a kid and we're doing gigs with them, it's kind of, I say, dude, how did you do this? Or, how did you do that? I remember one time, I was not good friends, but I knew the guys in Carnivore, the original Carnivore. And as a New York band, they were always a big influence on me, because I always looked at them as one of the best New York bands to come out, because I love the heavy stuff. And that one album in particular, Retaliation, he gets that sound, that bass sound. It's kind of a flangey, overdriven, distorted sound. And I was good friends with actually the guys that were in Typo Negative later on with Peter. So plus I used to work kind of with not work with the merchandise company that did their stuff, but And plus they're Brooklyn guys, so we know each other. And I asked Peter one time, I go, dude, how do you get that sound? And he goes, well, I use one of those Boss overdrive pedals. And I said, and he said it was like a guitar pedal he used. It was like I forget the exact model, but it was like, and that's how he got that heavy kind of distortion thing. And I go, usually when using a guitar pedal, you usually blow speakers in the basic. He used to blow speakers all the time. So it was always just kind of asking guys. Yeah, you can kind of experiment on your own. So, but I would recommend a kind of a basic bass head. Don't get anything too complicated, at least at the beginning. I know guys, they got to get the rack systems and they got to get all these things and they got a thing the size of a refrigerator. And I'm like, yeah, I'm, like I said, but I like to think I get the sound more of that in my hands and that way I play, but you can just sit down and kind of just learn what that head can do for you and, twiddle the knobs and just play with it, so,
Yeah.
And of course, you can read up on stuff and go on the internet and find out who does what and who uses what as far as equipment and pedals and stuff. But I think it's a personal thing, it's just like what you like,
Because we were speaking to Billy Gray from Fozzy, and he was saying he was exactly the same what you just said. It's like it comes from you. The tone comes from you, your hands, your actions, the way you play, and your soul. It comes right from the, like as Billy said, wasn't it, John? It was like right from your feet, right up to your soul, like so. It's
We had a similar conversation with Ricky Warwick, and Ricky, he was talking about, he went a little bit further because he's obviously a guitarist, and he said, if there's somebody you're into, is there a guitarist in a band that you're into, he says, and that's the sound you want, find out what equipment he uses, and if you can get that or you can get something like that, then that's another way to look at it as well. That was one of the suggestions Ricky came up with, which I thought was pretty good as well. He was talking about when a guitarist is making their mind up whether to go for a Gibson, Les Paul, or a Strat. He says, well, the easiest way is whoever you're into, find out what they use. If they use that type of thing, then that's what you get. And that's how he put it, which I thought was quite interesting.
I think that it does have a lot to do with the instrument as well. Now, I go for more of a precision-based sound because the precision bass is the bass guitar. It was the first original bass guitar. But my Ibanez, my new Ibanez Destroyer, has the P bass configuration pickups and one of the jazz bass pickups. So for me, that's the monster right there. That's giving you that heavy sound. But it's funny because when you mentioned Entwistle, and this is why I was so taken with it. When I first saw that movie in the movie theater too, when I was a kid, and he's doing Baba O'Reilly Live, right? You remember that they filmed it in Shepperton Studios.
Yeah.
It was like one of the last things I think Keith Moon did before he died, because that was done in like '78, and it was that and We Won't Get Fooled Again. And that was like, one was at the beginning of the movie and one was at the end, but that was like the professionally recorded. So they do Baba O'Reilly. Now in the original version, the recorded version, they used a piano at the beginning, dun, 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 right? And then the guitar and bass come in at the same time, underneath that, with that keyboard, that crazy keyboard thing going on. But the live thing, they have the keyboard thing going. And then Entwistle's got that Olympic bass, and I've seen those basses for like $11,000. That Explorer looking, the Spider bass, right? That. And I remember the hair on the back of my neck stood up when the first time I saw it because it was just so powerful. It sounded like a grand piano to me. Right? It was just him and the keyboard, the live version, and then Townsend comes in with the power chord, and that was so like. Man, it was just like blew me away. I was 14 years old. I don't know what to do with myself. I was like, wow, what an amazing thing. It was so powerful. And so, it's like you can't even put it into words sometimes, especially being that young, seeing on a big screen in the movie theater, everybody smoking pot. And I'm like, what are they doing? Because I was a kid, But that had a huge impact on me. And I'm going, I got to get that bass. And then I'm looking on the internet, and I go, $11,000. I'm like, I could buy a car for that much, you know, like a decent car. And so it was like, I guess that dream's dead. But I think the instrument has a lot to do with it. Absolutely, you know. And yeah, and it's, I guess it's just, you know, how you know, physically, how it, the instrument feels to you too. You know, it's the, but for some reason, you know, the Explorer, the Destroyer shape has kind of a weird shape, but for me, it's always been a very comfortable shape for me. Cause, you know, it kind of looks cool too. It's, you know, pointy guitar, that kind of thing. But it sounds great. My original red one that was stolen, I bought that back in 1984 when I graduated high school. I bought that at Sam Ash on 48th Street in New York City. Now to go to 48th Street in New York City, Manhattan, to buy your first real guitar, that was a thing. You know, I took the train, you know, we take a ferry boat from Staten Island over to Manhattan, and then the subway, you know.
That is one of my favorite streets, by the way. I've been there, and Lisa, my wife, cringes every time we walk down it.
Because all gone, bro. It's all gone. It was such a shame because a couple of years ago, everything's gone. Everything.
Sam Ash as well.
Oh my God! It puts an arrow through my heart. Yep, all gone.
What about the little ones? There's a quality little one next door.
There might be one or two. I'm not sure because I avoid Manhattan at all costs. I don't go into that borough ever. I haven't been there, and I drove through from New Jersey one day. I was dropping a friend off from going from Queens into New Jersey, driving through the tunnel, and I get like panic attacks now when I drive through Manhattan because I just can't deal with it anymore. It's just besides what's going on now with all the rioting and all that stuff, it's just driving into that borough just kills me. Because like I said, I live in the outer borough. I live in the furthest most borough away from the rest of New York City. So I'm more like a New Jersey person, you know. I would say Staten Island is the New Jersey of New York, you know. So you know, I live 8 minutes away from Bayonne, New Jersey, literally from where I live right here. So I'm more of like a suburban guy. But you know, I mean, I spent a lot of time in Manhattan, but yeah, it's gone. It's gone. I did some staging work for a while, for a few years. So I would travel into Manhattan by ferry and subway. And I had a job up in like in the 50s somewhere up in Midtown, and I ended up walking down right where 48th Street used to be. It's gone. Sam Ash, Manny's, all those famous guitar stores, all gone.
Manny's as well.
Manny's as well. Just broke my heart. I go, really? They're all gone?
It's all online now. That's why, isn't it? People are buying it all online.
Yeah, but Manny's has got so much history behind it, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's like when I went in there was all like, no, you've got pictures of everyone in Manny's, and you can guarantee if you stayed in Manny's long enough, someone would walk in who you'd know. Seriously, that's what Manny's was like. It was the guitar shop to go to in New York.
Yep. When I was a teenager, I was up there one time with my friend. I think his mom was with us. That's how young we were. And Paul Stanley walked by us. I know who you are. The early 80s. Yeah. It was hey, it's Paul Stanley. Yeah, I used to work in Manhattan too, so I used to see some people. Joey Ramone used to be in my neighborhood. I worked on the Lower East Side for about 7 years, so I seen a lot of famous people up there too. So, but yeah, Manny's, everybody would be there, you know. And you know, I would just go up there just to look. Just to walk into the store, you know. After a while, they're like, "What do you guys want? Get out of here! You're not buying anything. Go away." Typical New York stuff. So, but yeah, I went to Sam Ash. It was my second guitar, but it was my first real guitar. You know, I had a jazz bass copy. You know, my mother bought for me when I was started lessons. You know, but yeah, it's a shame because New York is slowly eroding. I'm not an old guy. I'm only 55, but you know, it's like you see what's happening. It's just like things are going away. The venues that used to be the Roseland Ballroom, which is one of my favorite places to see a show, because you know the place would hold about 3,000 or 4,000 people. Torn down, turned into a residential skyscraper. You know, and yeah, New York is losing a lot of history like that. It's sad. It really is.
Ripping the heart out of it.
Yeah.
Just to finish up, Tom. We've briefly talked. Well, we've talked a few times about the fact that we expect people to be watching this who may just decide, having watched this, they want to be a bassist. And they're into rock or they're into heavy metal, right? I'd like you to sort of tell them 5 or 6 bassists that you would suggest to them to listen to learn their craft.
Well, I've always had my holy trinity, and that's Steve Harris, Geezer Butler, and Cliff Burton. Those are my 3 big influences on me as the way I play, but also just as a bass. I mean, Steve Harris. Like I said, when I first heard the first Iron Maiden album, I go, "What? What's he doing there?" And so he's the guy, heavy metal, right? I mean, he is the pinnacle of the hard rock bass player, heavy metal bass player, I should say. But besides them, like I said, Lemmy was a huge influence on me, just the heavy sound. And who the hell sounded like Motorhead back then? It was like, when I first heard Motorhead, I was like, the No Sleep Till Hammersmith album. That was the first one I bought. And I was like, what? That kind of thing. Like I said, Pete Way. I love Pete Way. He was a bigger influence on me than I ever realized. You know what? All my heroes are all British guys. All of them. All my big heroes are all British, because you can't mess with them. Go back to the 60s, Jack Bruce. Geddy Lee from Rush, obviously. Oh my God, there's so many great guys, and sometimes they get fogged up. I'll even say, I'm not a huge Yes fan, but Chris Squire was just, and for a pick player, just amazing. Just an amazing guy. I'm glad I got to see him not too long. I got to see him not too long before he passed away. They played a local, big venue here. And so I got to see him live. Who else? Entwistle, obviously. So I'm saying all the mainstays, all the main guys. But like as a metal bass player, those 3 stick out. Geezer, Steve Harris, and Cliff Burton, obviously. And who else do I love? There's so many great guys. Overkill, who I'm good friends with, and they're local. I think they're the best thrash band on the East Coast, as far as I'm concerned. They've been around since '85, right? Even before that. Dee Dee Verney from Overkill got such a great sound. He's a pick player, but such a great heavy sound. It's like, who else? I'm trying to think. I always thought Pete Steele was awesome from Carnivore and Typo Negative, because these are local guys too. These are kind of local dudes. I don't know if you remember a band from the 80s. They were a band from, they were the only real heavy metal band that came from Staten Island, New York. They're called Cities. And the bass player, Frank Italiano, Frank is his brother, Sal Italiano. He taught me lessons. He showed me how to play metal bass. I took lessons from when I was like a year or so into playing, and I remember seeing them play locally. AJ Perro from Twisted Sister ended up in Cities after he'd left Twisted Sister. So that's what but Sal was a big influence on me too, and Frankie actually, because he's a good buddy of mine, and he plays in a lot of the local bands. They do a lot of Ozzy and Iron Maiden band, local cover bands. Who else? I'm trying to fucking think. It's I love like Voivod. The Blackie from Voivod had such an amazing kind of sound. He had like such an original kind of sound. Even Gene Simmons, because of the theatrical stuff with the blood and all that, and but he was actually a really good bass player. I know he's more of an old school kind of jazz rock kind of player. He played a lot of walking bass line stuff, which is, to me, I'm still trying to figure out that kind of stuff. Like when it goes, listen, like Rock and Roll All Night. He's got to put that during the chorus. He does that walking bass line thing. Which is more of a jazz thing. But
I always liked Phil. I always liked Phil.
Yeah,
I always
he
liked
was a
Phil
great
in it
bass
as well.
I won't take nothing away from him. Yeah, so your 70s and your 80s guys, that's more of my, even the 60s guys. There's some, what's his name, from Jimi Hendrix Experience, who I met. I got to hang out with him a few times. Noel Redding. That guy's amazing, man. Such a heavy, heavy sound. He's back then in the 60s. I remember watching a video from them. Hendrix playing in, I think it was Sweden or something. he had such a heavy sound. It was like, just like rumbly. And I'm like, wow, man, this is the 60s? You never thought he'd be that heavy back then. But, you know, it was Hendrix. But, yeah, that's my school. That's where I'm from, basically. You know, John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin. Can't take it from him. Come on.
Yeah,
I'm not even the biggest Zeppelin fan. I mean, you know, you got to give them respect. They're one of the giants. But John Paul Jones, that guy kills. You know, so, yeah, that's where I'm from, basically.
Yeah, it's all good stuff.
You know? Yeah, but, you know, I don't know. Hopefully, you know, there's some we get some young kids to our shows, which is great. You know, like, we played a show on Long Island one day, and you know, about a year ago, and this younger dude comes up. Couldn't have been more than, say, like 20. He goes, I thought you were all old guys, you know, because we get up there, and I mean, you know, like I said, we're older dudes, but I think we can give guys in their 20s and 30s a run for their money because we just loved what we do and it shows when we play, you know, on stage. We have fun with it. We have fun with it, you know. So I never really thought you should take it too seriously. And you always have a good time with it, at least, you know.
Well, let me just tell you, Tom, I manage a band, a thrash metal band, and it's 3 young lads. The oldest one is 16, and the other 2, the other 2 were 14, but it's his birthday today, so the one at 16, one at 15, and one at 14, and they thrash like hell. They are amazing. But hey, at least there's a new generation coming through, mate.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of when we play the festivals in Germany. It's called the Headbangers Open Air. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's a small festival, but there's bands playing. I go, Jesus, I didn't even know these guys were still alive. You know, like it's that kind of thing. You know, because it's bands at a certain level. They're not too famous, but they're legends. They got, you know, certain legendary status. But we've been lucky. You know, I mean, we played that festival 3 times already, 2010, 2013, and 2017. Overkill played it, and it's funny because Bobby, the singer, knows me, and he's like, and he knew I was there, but we couldn't see each other because I didn't have the right wristband for the day, so I couldn't get backstage. And a girl that was running the booth next to where we had our merch, she goes, didn't you hear Bobby called you out from the stage? I go, what? He goes, Tom Lorenzo, I can smell you, but I can't see you. So I thought that was funny. But yeah, so it's great because I'm at that level where guys that I looked up to when I was a kid, I'm doing shows with them now. Remember a band called Demon? They're a British band.
Oh, yeah.
Demon. They're like a straight up heavy metal band, basically. Yeah, I liked them. I remember buying that album when I was like 15. It was the Uninvited Guest or the Unexpected Guest. I forget the title. And I remember they were down in the dressing room. I go, guys, what was the name of that album again? The Uninvited Guest or the Unexpected Guest? They go, and then they told me, I go, okay, cool. You know, and that was it. You know, we played with them twice. So yeah, it's great to do that to like these guys that were like your heroes, and now they're kind of like your peers. You know, but that festival is awesome because they only pick a certain type of band. Like they won't have any death metal bands on that kind of festival because that's a little later, you know, like if Cannibal Corpse was asking to play, I don't think they would put them on because, we're the heaviest thing you would get on that festival. That's what I like about it. It's varied bands, too. It's not just all thrash bands or all heavy metal. It's all different types of heavy metal bands, you know? So that's cool. But, yeah, like I said, there's younger, you see them coming in younger and younger. And they got the bullet belts and the battle vests and, you know, and it's cool because, and they come up and they're like telling you like how much they love you, and I'm like, really, man? That's so cool, you know? Because if I had kids, I probably wouldn't have the kids probably wouldn't be digging what I'm doing, obviously, you know. But yeah, they come up, they're younger and younger every year. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
get those kids going, man.
You check them out. They're called Tortured Demon. Check them out.
Tortured the Demon?
Tortured Demon.
Touch of the Demon. All right, cool. I'll keep an eye out for them.
Right. I'll send you the link.
yeah, sure, do that. Absolutely, yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. We have had Tom Lorenzo from Blood Beast. Tom, last thing from us, give us your links to your web pages, mate, if you can.
All right, we got on the Facebook thing. We don't have any Twitter page. Nobody does Twitter in the band. I don't know. Twitter's a little weird for us. On the Facebook thing now, this is important. On the Facebook, it's Blood Feast Legions Worldwide, not Blood Feast Official, because that's the drummer, Kevin, the original drummer. That's his page. We have nothing to do with that anymore. We have nothing to do with him. So we had to, he's another one we had to let off. He moved to Pittsburgh, and we're like, yeah, all right, dude, we're really going to do some stuff with you. He wanted the band to stay like a Vegas act, you know, and he didn't want to write any new material. We're like, we'll see you later, pal. You have a good life. So it's Blood Feast Legions Worldwide on Facebook. And then it's bloodfeastlegions.com is our website page. And you can order, you know, merchandise and music and all that. And also Hell's Headbangers Records. You can order our stuff on that place too. And we got a page on Instagram too. I think it's just Blood Feast Legions.
Yeah.
So it's all about the Legions.
That's all it's about, mate. So if you've missed any of that, I will be putting links down below. They'll be just down there. So just click on them and you'll see Tom's lovely face and you'll be able to check out some of the music. So there you go, guys. John, it's over to you, mate.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's been another exciting interview with another top guest. So until next time, remember, hit that cowbell and subscribe to the Scouser and the Scot.